Welcome to this webinar on Context Matters. Throughout this video, you will see a paper pencil icon on some slides indicating a workbook activity. When you see this icon on the top left corner, this means I'll be asking you to write something in your workbook or refer to your workbook. If possible, download the workbook from the CCRC before continuing with this course. However, if you are not able to, no worries. Just use any piece of paper and write down your thoughts on that. You can always transfer that to the workbook later. The agenda for today's webinar includes two modules, one on context and one on using context to make decisions. Our objective for today is to show how background information supports a case or adds weight to a decision. Participants will leave the session knowing how to apply this knowledge when making decisions. Let's explore the meaning of context and how it is used. Before I go into the definition, I want to see where your thoughts are. In your workbook, on page 3, please answer, what, in your opinion, is context? Pause the video and resume when you are ready. When you return, we'll go over the formal definition. Context provides background information, clarification, and ground setting. Context is defined as the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea, and in terms of which it can be fully understood and assessed. Context provides three things: background information that may not be known but is important to the case or decision, clarification of relevant facts which provides a more robust picture, and ground setting for different perspectives to ensure all are moving in the same direction. Let's talk about some examples of where context is important and where not having context can cause problems. For example, if I said to someone, "It looks like you've put on some weight," your immediate thought is probably, "Wow, that is so offensive, right?" But what if I told you that I'm speaking to someone who lost 20 pounds due to an illness and who is now recovering and trying to put on some pounds? In this situation, I actually meant the statement as a compliment. But you wouldn't know that unless you had the context, right? Remember, it's important not to make assumptions, but rather to gain the proper context of a situation. So how do we gather information to gain context? Before I go into how to gather the information to gain the context, I want to see where your thoughts are. In your workbook on page 4, please answer the following question. In your opinion, what are the best methods to gather information that provides context? Please pause the video and resume when you are ready. Thank you for giving this some thought. Some answers you may have thought of include online research, asking questions, and reading documents. Looking at past lessons learned is one way to gather information to determine what didn't work in the past so that we don't make the same mistakes again. There are two perspectives that we want to think through: lessons learned from the self perspective and from the perspective of others. When we look at what was learned, we have to capture the thoughts of others, provide our perspective as the leader, help the group understand the impacts of these lessons, and then ensure the lessons will be applied in the future. This is often done during an AAR, or after-action review. The essence of the AAR is to bring together the relevant group to think about a project, activity, event, or task, and pose the following simple questions. What happened? Why did it happen? And How to do better. Some questions to ask in an AAR are, what did you set out to achieve? And what actually happened? These questions establish a common understanding of the work item under review and encourage and promote discussion around these questions. Other questions to ask are, what worked for you and why? And what did not work for you and why? These questions explore the divergence of what was supposed to happen and what really happened. They generate reflection about the root cause of the successes and failures during the course of the project. Finally, another question is, what would you do differently the next time? This question is intended to help identify specific actionable recommendations, so be sure to ask the team members for crisp and clear, achievable and future-oriented recommendations. In your workbook on page 5, please list the questions you think would best work with your team and why. Pause the video and resume when you are ready. Thank you for giving this some thought. When a live session of this course was conducted, some of the questions your peers asked were, what was the most helpful thing we did during this process? Was the main goal of the initiative clear? What outside influences could or did affect the outcome? And where did we succeed and where did we fall short? All great questions. Gathering information and using context can help you make decisions. When this is the case, it is a good idea to follow a decision-making model. Looking at the decision-making matrix discussed in the Harvard Business Review, there are 4 styles of decision-making: decisive, flexible, hierarchic, and integrative. Let's discuss each one. First is the decisive decision mode, where there is little information and one course of action. People using the decisive style value action, speed, efficiency, and consistency. Once a plan is in place, they stick to it and move on to the next decision. In dealing with other people, they value honesty, clarity, loyalty, and especially brevity. Time is precious in this mode. Next is the flexible decision-making mode, where there is little information and there are many possible actions. Like the decisive style, the flexible style focuses on speed, but here the emphasis is on adaptability. Faced with a problem, a person working in the flexible mode will get just enough data to choose a line of attack and quickly change course if need be. Next, we have the hierarchic decision-making mode, with lots of information and one course of action. In this mode of decision-making, a large amount of data is analyzed and inputs sought. From the hierarchic point of view, decisions must stand the test of time. People in the hierarchic mode do not rush to judgment. Instead, they analyze a great deal of information and expect others to contribute, and will readily challenge others' views, analyses, and decisions. Finally, we have the integrative decision-making mode, with lots of information and many possible actions. Here, you don't necessarily look for a single best solution. Instead, this mode is about understanding the situation in a broad sense and integrating all intersecting elements to make multiple decisions. Here you see all 4 modes together. Knowing these will help you make decisions based on how much information and possible actions you have. Please answer this question. Which of the decision-making models do you use the most? Is it 1. Decisive decision-making, 2. Flexible decision-making, 3. Hierarchic decision-making, or 4. Integrative decision-making. Please take a moment to think about it and then answer on page 6 of your workbook. Pause the video and resume when you are ready. Just for reference, when this session was conducted live, the majority of participants answered 2 and 4. There is no wrong answer here, though. Now that we know about the decision-making models, when you look at decision-making in a group setting, you should consider the following steps when coming to a decision. Looking at the decision-making process by the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, we see that there are, in general, 7 steps when coming to a decision. 1. Recognize the decision. 2. Collect the related data. 3. Understand the options. 4. Authenticate the corroboration. 5. Select amongst the options. 6. Take measures. And 7. Analyze the decision. Let's look at a case study. Amira has been asked to lead a task force to improve upon mishap prevention and reduce incidents such as accidents, workplace safety, etc. in her FEC. This task force is part of a larger task force that could possibly impact the entire DON, not just NAVFAC. She knows that she needs to gather information to put things into context before she helps decide the course of action. While she knows how to gather information in a specific AAR, she's never done it before on such a broad topic. To prepare for an upcoming meeting on the topic, she wants to gather information. Some possible information to gather includes the available data on current and past mishaps, accidents that resulted in medical treatment, near misses, in other words, incidents that could have resulted in injuries or significant damages, any property damage, site-specific safety plans, and job hazard analysis. On page 8 of your workbook, please respond to the following question. What questions can Amira ask to gain context? For example, she could ask, what current data do we have? There are no right or wrong answers here. I just want you to give some thought to what some important questions might be. Here are some possible questions Amira can ask to gain context. Where is the available data on current and past mishaps? Which accidents resulted in medical treatment? What were some of the near misses that could have resulted in injuries or significant damages? Was there any property damage? What are the site-specific safety plans in place? And, has a job hazard analysis been conducted? Asking any or all of these questions can give Amira more context in order to be able to successfully lead her task force. Let's take a moment to review why context is important. Remember, context provides background information that may not be known but is important to the case or decision, clarification of relevant facts which provides a more robust picture, and ground setting for different perspectives to ensure all are moving in the same direction. Once Amira gathers the background information she seeks, how can she use this information to ensure all are moving in the same direction? Let's say she finds that the current data is 2 years old. What could she do to move things forward? One thing Amira could do is to write an executive brief to leaders to make everyone aware of the context of the situation. Another answer would be to have a meeting to summarize all the relevant information so that everyone has the same context. Another possible answer could be to create subgroups on the task force, where each group receives the relevant context that they need to form a course of action. We've just come up with some possible answers for context example 1. Take a few minutes to work on the other two in your workbook in the Additional Notes section on page 7. Pause the video and resume when you are ready. Talking through this case study, you can see that understanding the context of a situation or problem is crucial in being able to make a decision or find solutions. Without understanding the scope of the issue and contextual background, you don't have the full picture necessary to make good decisions. In the next day or so, in your workbook on page 9, please write down your thoughts on these reflection questions. What did you take from this learning session that you can apply to your current position today? And what is the most important tip you will share with a coworker that wasn't able to participate today? Thank you for attending today. Please email the TFD account listed on your screen and in the workbook with any additional questions or comments, or contact your local civilian training advocate or BD17. You will receive credit for participating in this course. To receive credit, email the address below with the listed subject line, course name, and completion code. Please check the Career Compass Resource Center, or CCRC, often for updates and new content to support your learning. Again, thank you for your participation.